The first thing Kira noticed wasn't the human's breathing, which had remained steady for 2.5 centuries. It wasn't the way his chest rose and fell with mechanical precision, or how his augmented physiology had kept him perfectly preserved in the cryo cave she'd carved into the mountain's heart. No, what caught her attention was the sound. Footsteps. Heavy, methodical, getting closer. "Oh, fantastic," she muttered, her scaled fingers dancing across the bioscanner she'd been using to monitor his vitals. 250 years of perfect hiding, and now they show up when I'm running diagnostics. The human lay motionless on the stone slab she'd fashioned for him, his dark skin unmarked by time, his military fatigues as pristine as the day she'd dragged his bleeding body into this sanctuary. Captain Marcus Thorne, the last survivor of the Terran Defense Corps' final stand at Proxima Station. The man who'd held off an entire Korthak battle fleet with nothing but a broken plasma rifle and sheer bloody-minded human stubbornness. The footsteps grew louder. Multiple sets now, clattering against the rocky terrain outside her hidden entrance. Kira's throat pouch fluttered, a nervous habit she'd never quite managed to shake despite decades of careful control. "Wake up, Marcus," she whispered, pressing her palm against the emergency revival sequence she'd programmed into his life support systems. "They found us. Nothing happened. Come on," she hissed, jabbing the controls with increasing desperation. The bio readings flickered, showing elevated neural activity, but his eyes remained closed. "I did not spend 2.5 centuries of playing nursemaid to a human popsicle just to watch you sleep through your own rescue." A plasma bolt seared past the cave entrance, leaving a smoking crater in the opposite wall. Kira ducked instinctively, her reptilian reflexes serving her well even after all these years of hiding. Through the narrow opening she'd disguised with holographic scrub brush, she could see the distinctive purple glow of Korthak battle armor. "Search pattern 7. A mechanical voice echoed from outside. "Target's biosignature indicates prolonged habitation in this sector." "Oh, wonderful," Kira muttered. "They have upgraded their tracking tech. Because that's exactly what I needed today." She'd known this moment would come eventually. The Korthak Dominion didn't forgive, and they certainly didn't forget. When the human colonies had fallen, when Earth itself had been glassed from orbit, the surviving Terran military had scattered across the galaxy like seeds on a cosmic wind. Most had been hunted down within the first decade. A few had lasted longer, fighting guerrilla campaigns from asteroid bases and dead worlds. Marcus Thorne had been different. He'd been the one who'd cracked their quantum encryption, the one who'd turned their own weapons against them at the Battle of Kepler's Edge. He'd been the human who'd made the Korthak Dominion bleed for every system they claimed. And Kira, former intelligence operative turned reluctant guardian, had been the one stupid enough to save him. "Thermal scanners detect 2 life forms," another voice called out. This one sounded younger, eager. "One appears to be in stasis." Finally, the first voice replied. "After all these cycles, we have found the Terran ghost." Kira's hand moved to the plasma pistol at her hip, checking its charge for the 10th time that morning. 43%. Enough for maybe a dozen shots, if she was lucky. Against a full Korthak search squad that might buy her 30 seconds of defiance before they turned her into molecular vapor. "Marcus, I swear by all the gods of all the worlds, if you don't wake up right now, I'm going to tell everyone you spent the last 2 centuries drooling in your sleep." His eyelid twitched. "Oh, now you want to be dramatic about it," she whispered, frantically working the revival controls. His vital signs spiked, neural activity cascading through patterns she'd memorized after decades of study. The human brain, even in stasis, never truly stopped working. It just waited. The first Korthak soldier appeared at the cave entrance, its insectoid features hidden behind the glowing faceplate of its combat helmet. Standard battle configuration. Energy shields, plasma cannon, enough firepower to level a small city. Behind it, she could see at least 3 more, their movements coordinated with the kind of precision that came from centuries of conquest. "Kira Vexthane," the lead soldier said, its voice amplified through external speakers. "Former operative of the Hegemony Intelligence Division. You have been charged with harboring a Terran war criminal. Surrender the human, and your death will be swift. You know, Kira called back, keeping her voice steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. I have always wondered about that particular threat. Swift compared to what? Because I've seen what you do to prisoners, and swift doesn't exactly factor into your methodology. Your sarcasm will not delay the inevitable. Maybe not, but it makes me feel better about the situation. Behind her, Marcus's breathing changed. Deeper now, more irregular. His fingers twitched against the stone slab, and she could see his eyes moving beneath closed lids. The revival process was accelerating, his augmented physiology fighting off the effects of extended stasis with typical human tenacity. You maintained him for 2.7 Terran centuries. The Korthak continued. Impressive dedication for such a primitive species. Primitive? Kira laughed, the sound echoing off the cave walls. Says the species that needed half a millennium to figure out faster-than-light travel. Humans cracked it in 60 years. Humans are extinct. Are they? She glanced back at Marcus, watching his chest rise and fall with increasing strength. Because the one behind me seems to be doing pretty well for a dead species. The lead soldier stepped into the cave, its energy shield crackling with contained power. Stand aside, hegemony filth. Your protection of this creature ends now. Creature? Kira drew her plasma pistol, training it on the soldier's center mass. That creature held Proxima Station for 18 hours against your entire third battle group. That creature turned your own quantum mines against you at Wolf 359. That creature has killed more of your kind than any being in recorded history. Exactly why he must die. Exactly why he won't. The plasma exchange was brief but intense. Kira's first shot took the lead soldier in the chest, penetrating its energy shield and sending it stumbling backward. The return fire scorched the cave wall inches from her head, filling the air with the acrid smell of superheated stone. She rolled behind a natural stone formation, her heart hammering against her ribs. 3 more soldiers pressed into the cave, their movements cautious but determined. They'd learned to respect human tactics over the centuries, even if they'd never learned to understand them. Kira. The voice was rough, barely a whisper, but it cut through the sound of plasma fire like a blade through silk. She spun around, nearly weeping with relief. Marcus Thorne was sitting up on the stone slab, his gray eyes clear and focused despite 2.5 centuries of artificial sleep. His first instinct, typically human, was to look for a weapon. About time, she said, tossing him her backup pistol. I was starting to think you decided to sleep through the apocalypse. He caught the weapon with reflexes that hadn't dulled despite the extended stasis, his fingers finding the grip with practiced ease. How long? 250 years. Give or take a few months. The war. Over. We lost. Marcus absorbed this information with the kind of calm acceptance that had made him legend among the surviving resistance cells. No despair. No rage, just a simple nod of acknowledgement before he focused on the immediate problem. How many? 4 Korthak regulars, full battle gear. They have been tracking us for. She ducked as another plasma bolt seared overhead. Well, apparently longer than I thought. Weapons. You've got 12 shots. I have got maybe 8 left. Terrain. Single entrance, no back exit. We are trapped like rats in a barrel. Marcus smiled, and Kira remembered why the Korthak had spent so much effort hunting him. It wasn't the kind of smile that belonged on a civilized face. It was the expression of a predator who'd just realized the prey had walked into his territory. Perfect, he said. The next few minutes redefined Kira's understanding of human warfare. She'd seen Marcus fight before, of course. She'd been there during the final battle at Proxima Station, had watched him turn a desperate last stand into a tactical masterpiece. But that had been on an open battlefield with support weapons and coordinated fire teams. This was different. This was personal. Marcus moved through the cave like liquid death, using every stone outcropping, every shadow, every angle of ricochet to maximum advantage. His first shot disabled the lead soldier's energy shield. His second took out the targeting systems of another. By the time the Korthak realized they were facing something more dangerous than a cornered fugitive, two of their number were down and the others were scrambling for cover. Impossible, one of them hissed through its comm system. Preliminary scans indicated only one human life sign. That's because you can't scan for what you don't understand, Marcus replied, his voice carrying easily through the cave's acoustics. You have been hunting us for centuries, but you have never figured out what makes us tick. Enlighten us, primitive. Gladly. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a masterclass in human psychology applied to lethal force. Marcus didn't just outfight the remaining Korthak soldiers. He outthought them, anticipated their moves, turned their own tactical doctrine against them with surgical precision. When the plasma fire finally stopped, 3 Korthak lay dead and the 4th was crawling toward the cave entrance, its battle armor sparking from multiple hits. Marcus put a final bolt through its helmet, ending its retreat with characteristic efficiency. Well, Kira said, surveying the carnage, that was comprehensive. Marcus checked his weapon's charge, found it nearly depleted, and set it aside. They will send more. Probably. The Dominion doesn't like to lose assets. How many survivors? From the war? Maybe a few thousand scattered across the outer rim. Most of the colonies are gone, though. Earth. She shrugged. Earth's been a cinder for 2 centuries. Marcus processed this with the same calm acceptance he'd shown earlier. Resistance cells? Some. They are careful, though. After what happened to the Centauri group. What happened to the Centauri group? The Dominion found them. All of them. Made an example that discouraged organized resistance for about 50 years. And now, Kira studied his face, seeing the wheels turning behind those gray eyes. Now, there are rumors. Whispers about a new movement, something called the Phoenix Protocol. They say someone's been gathering survivors, building something in the dark spaces between the stars. Marcus nodded slowly. We need to find them. I have spent 2.5 centuries keeping you alive. Marcus, I think I have earned the right to a quiet retirement. Have you? He gestured toward the dead Korthak. Because it looks like retirement just got canceled. Kira looked at the bodies, at the plasma burns scarring her cave walls, at the man she'd kept alive through sheer stubborn determination. He was right, of course. The moment she'd pulled him from that burning transport, the moment she'd chosen to hide him instead of turning him over to the Dominion authorities, she'd committed herself to this path. The Phoenix Protocol, she said finally. If it even exists. It exists. Marcus was already moving, checking the Korthak equipment for anything useful. Humans don't give up. We just hibernate. Like you did for 250 years. Exactly like that. He found a functioning comm unit, began scrolling through its recent transmissions. And now it's time to wake up. Outside the cave, Kira could hear the distant whine of approaching engines. More Korthak, probably an entire battalion this time. The Dominion had learned not to underestimate human resourcefulness, even if they'd never learned to truly understand it. How much time do we have? Marcus asked. Maybe 10 minutes before they reach us. Maybe less. Then we better get moving. He shouldered a salvaged plasma rifle, checked its charge. Unless you've got a back exit I don't know about. Actually, Kira said, moving toward a seemingly solid wall at the back of the cave, I do. She pressed her palm against a specific pattern of stone, and a section of the wall slid aside, revealing a narrow tunnel that led down into the mountain's depths. Emergency lighting flickered to life, casting eerie shadows on the carved walls. 250 years is a long time to be bored, she explained. I may have done some excavation work. Marcus peered into the tunnel, noting the professional construction, the hidden ventilation systems, the subtle defensive positions built into the architecture. This isn't just a back door. This is a fortress. I told you. I got bored. Where does it lead? Eventually, to my ship. It's hidden in a canyon about 3 kilometers from here, shielded from orbital scans. Will it fly? It better. I have been maintaining it for 2 centuries. The sound of engines grew louder, accompanied now by the distinctive thrum of military transports. The Korthak weren't taking any chances this time. They were bringing everything they had. After you, Marcus said, gesturing toward the tunnel. Such a gentleman, Kira replied, but she was already moving. Try to keep up, old man. You have been asleep for a while. I will manage. As they descended into the mountain's depths, leaving behind the cave that had been Marcus's home for 2.5 centuries, Kira couldn't help but smile. She'd spent so long playing guardian, protector, caretaker. It felt good to be running again. Behind them, plasma fire lit up the cave entrance as the Korthak search team discovered their quarry had flown. The cursing that followed, translated through universal comm protocols, would have made a dock worker blush. You know what the really funny thing is? Kira called back to Marcus as they hurried through the tunnel. What's that? They still don't understand what they are really up against. And what's that? A human who's had 250 years to plan his comeback. Marcus's laughter echoed through the tunnel, a sound that hadn't been heard in the galaxy for centuries. It was the sound of humanity awakening from its long sleep, the sound of the species that refused to die. The ship was beautiful in the way that only functional things could be beautiful. Kira had spent decades modifying the original Hegemony scout vessel, stripping away unnecessary luxury and replacing it with armor plating, weapon systems, and enough shielding to hide from anything short of a full sensor sweep. It sat in the hidden canyon like a sleeping predator, its dark hull blending seamlessly with the rocky walls. Not bad, Marcus said, running his hand along the reinforced hull plating. Looks like you have been busy. Idle hands and all that. Kira activated the boarding ramp, watching the diagnostic scroll across her wrist display. All systems green, fusion reactor humming at standby power. I call her the Silent Promise. Promise to do what? Get us out of whatever mess we are about to stumble into. She paused at the airlock, listening to the distant rumble of Korthak search craft. Speaking of which, we should probably get moving before they trace our tunnel exit. The ship's interior was a study in efficient brutality. Every surface served multiple purposes, every system had backups, and every corridor could be sealed in case of hull breach. Marcus moved through it with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent years on military vessels, noting the defensive positions, the escape routes, the subtle signs of a ship built for war. How long to reach the outer rim? He asked, settling into the co-pilot's seat. Depends where on the outer rim. The Phoenix Protocol, assuming it exists, could be anywhere in a dozen systems. Kira's hands flew across the control surfaces, bringing the ship to full operational status. I have been monitoring comm chatter for years, trying to piece together patterns. Most of the activity seems centered around the Vegas sector. Vega's a good choice. Lots of dead worlds, plenty of places to hide. Assuming they want to hide. The ship lifted off with barely a whisper, its gravity dampers compensating for the sudden acceleration. From what I have heard, the Phoenix Protocol isn't interested in hiding anymore. Marcus watched the canyon walls flash past through the cockpit windows, noting how Kira handled the controls with the kind of casual expertise that came from decades of practice. Were they interested in winning? The word hung in air between them as the ship broke atmosphere, leaving the planet's gravity well behind. Below them, the Korthak search grid was spreading out like a virus, plasma fire lighting up the mountain range as they vented their frustration on empty rock. They are really not happy about losing us, Kira observed. They will get over it. Marcus was studying the star charts, plotting courses to potential Phoenix Protocol locations. Or they won't. Either way works for me. 250 years of sleep, and you wake up in exactly the same mood you want to sleep in. Some things don't change, and some things do. Kira engaged the hyperdrive, watching space bend and twist around them as they entered the quantum tunnel that would carry them between stars. The galaxy's different now, Marcus. The Dominion controls everything from the core worlds to the mid-rim. Humanity isn't just scattered, it's broken. Most humans don't even remember what Earth looked like. Do you? The question caught her off guard. Yes. I was there during the final assault. Intelligence work, you understand. We were supposed to gather data on human defensive capabilities. And instead, I watched your species refuse to surrender, even when surrender was the only logical choice. I watched human civilians stand up to Dominion battle cruisers with nothing but small arms and pure bloody-minded stubbornness. I watched children throwing rocks at hover tanks. Marcus nodded. Sound about right. It was horrifying and magnificent and completely insane. She adjusted their course slightly, avoiding a patrol route that had been active the last time she'd passed through the sector. That's when I knew the Dominion had made a mistake. What kind of mistake? They thought they were conquering a species. They were actually creating a legend. The hyperspace tunnel collapsed around them, depositing the silent promise in the Vega system's outer reaches. Dead worlds spun in their ancient orbits, their surfaces scarred by centuries of war and abandonment. It was the perfect place for desperate people to hide, to plan, to build something new from the ashes of the old. There, Marcus said, pointing to a sensor contact near the fourth planet. That's not natural. Kira enhanced the display, revealing what looked like a small asteroid, but moved with too much purpose to be anything but artificial. Hidden base. Hidden fleet. As if responding to his words, the asteroid's surface began to shift and change. Camouflage fields dropped away, revealing not a single ship, but dozens of them. Fighters, gunboats, converted cargo haulers bristling with weapon pods. And at the center of the formation, something that made Kira's breath catch in her throat. Is that a human dreadnought? Marcus's voice carried a note of something that might have been pride. Modified, upgraded, but definitely Terran Defense Corps design. I helped write the specifications for that class. Incoming transmission, Kira announced as her comm board lit up. They are hailing us. Put them through. The voice that filled the cockpit was young, female, and carried the kind of authority that came from leading people who had nothing left to lose. Unidentified vessel. You're entering Phoenix Protocol space. State your business or prepare to be boarded. Phoenix Protocol Actual. This is Captain Marcus Thorne, Terran Defense Corps. I believe you have been looking for me. The silence that followed stretched for long seconds. When the voice returned, it carried a note of disbelief mixed with something that might have been hope. Marcus Thorne died at Proxima Station 250 years ago. Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Prove it. Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. Operation Starfall. Classification Level Omega. Authorization Code 177 Alpha. Target Korthak Command Vessel Inevitable Victory. Result complete destruction of enemy fleet command structure and the death of War Prime Klex Thorne. Another pause, shorter this time. Holy shit, it's really you. Language, soldier. Sorry, sir. This is Admiral Lisa Park, Phoenix Protocol, Fleet Command. Permission to come aboard, sir? Granted. And Admiral, it's good to know humanity didn't forget how to fight. We never forgot, sir. We just got better at it. The docking procedure took place aboard the Dreadnought Resurrection, a ship that bore the scars of countless battles, but flew with the pride of a species that refused to die. Marcus walked through corridors that hummed with purpose, past crew members who stopped their work to stare at a legend they thought was myth. Admiral Park was younger than Kira had expected, maybe 30 standard years, with the kind of calm confidence that came from winning battles against impossible odds. She met them in the ship's war room, a chamber lined with tactical displays showing the current state of the galaxy. Before we go any further, she said, I need to know about her. She nodded toward Kira. Hegemony Intelligence Division. Former enemy. Former everything. Kira replied before Marcus could speak. I have been keeping your legend alive for 2.5 centuries. If I wanted him dead, I could have done it any time in the last 250 years. Fair point. Park gestured toward the tactical displays. Welcome to the Phoenix Protocol, Captain Thorne. As you can see, we have been busy. The displays showed a galaxy in transition. Korthak Holdings, once solid blocks of controlled space, now showed gaps. Red indicators marked recent battles, most of them Phoenix victories. Supply lines were disrupted, patrol routes avoided, entire systems marked as contested. How many ships? Marcus asked. Active fleet? About 300 combat vessels, another 1,000 support craft. Total personnel, maybe 2 million across all operations. And the Dominion still has numerical superiority, but they are spread thin. They never expected organized resistance to emerge after so long. They have gotten comfortable, complacent. They have forgotten what humans are capable of when we are properly motivated. Marcus studied the tactical situation with the eye of someone who'd spent his career turning bad situations into victories. What's your strategic objective? Complete liberation of human-occupied space, followed by the establishment of a new Terran Republic. Ambitious. We learn from you, sir. Go big or go extinct. In your immediate tactical situation, that's where things get interesting. Park highlighted a system near the Galactic core. Intel suggests the Dominion is massing a major fleet for something they are calling Operation Final Solution. We think they are planning to glass every world with a human population, regardless of strategic value. Genocide, complete species extinction. They have finally realized that humans don't stay conquered. Marcus absorbed this information with characteristic calm. Timeline, best guess, 6 months before they are ready to launch. And your plan? Hit them first. Hard, fast, and in a way they will never see coming. She activated another display, this one showing the Korthak homeworld and its surrounding defenses. Orbital stations, patrol fleets, defense platforms. It was the most heavily fortified system in the galaxy. You want to attack their homeworld, Kira said. You are completely insane. Probably. Park's smile was pure human predator. But we are not attacking it. We are liberating it. Come again. 40% of the Korthak homeworld's population consists of slave species. Humans, hegemony refugees, captured soldiers from a dozen different wars. If we can coordinate a slave uprising with a direct assault on their command structure, you turn their own population against them, Marcus finished. Brilliant. Insane, but brilliant. It gets better. We have been in contact with resistance cells on 17 different worlds. When we hit the home world, they will launch simultaneous uprisings across Dominion space. Even if we don't win, we will tie up their forces long enough to evacuate human populations from the target worlds. And if you do win, then we go home, sir. We go home and rebuild what they took from us. Marcus turned to Kira. What do you think? I think you humans are completely mad, and I think that's exactly why this might work. She studied the tactical displays with professional interest. The slave population intel. How current is it? 6 months old, but we have assets in place. The information is solid. Then you have a chance. A small one, but a chance. That's all we have ever needed, Marcus said. Admiral, what do you need from me? Everything you know about Korthak tactics, fleet composition, command structure. And she hesitated. We need you to lead the assault. I've been out of action for 250 years. You are Marcus Thorne, the man who held Proxima Station, the ghost that's haunted Korthak nightmares for centuries. Half our people joined the Phoenix Protocol because they heard stories about you. She gestured around the war room. This ship, this fleet, this entire operation exists because someone once proved that humans don't know how to quit. Marcus looked at the displays, at the faces of the young officers who'd gathered to hear the legend speak, at Kira, who'd given up everything to keep one stubborn human alive. He thought about Earth burning in its orbit, about colonies turned to glass, about children throwing rocks at hover tanks because surrender wasn't in their vocabulary. When do we leave? He asked. Tomorrow, if you are ready. I have been ready for 250 years. Admiral Park smiled, and Kira recognized the expression from centuries of watching humans face impossible odds. It was the look of a species that had been knocked down, kicked while they were down, and had somehow found the strength to stand up again. Welcome to the Phoenix Protocol, Captain Thorne. Welcome back to the war. As the meeting dispersed and officers scattered to their duties, Kira found herself alone with Marcus in the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the Phoenix fleet preparing for what might be humanity's last gamble. Any regrets? She asked. About what? Waking up. You could have stayed asleep, stayed safe. Let someone else fight the war. Marcus watched a squadron of fighters practice attack runs against simulated targets, their movements sharp and precise despite the odds they faced. You know what I learned during the war, Kira? It's not about winning or losing. It's about refusing to give up, even when giving up makes sense, especially then. He turned to face her. and she saw something in his eyes that she'd first glimpsed at Proxima Station. The absolute certainty of someone who'd found their purpose. Humans don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because it's who we are. And what am I? I'm not human. You're something better. You're the being who chose to stand with us when everyone else gave up. You are the keeper of the flame, the guardian of hope. He smiled. You are family. Outside the windows, the Phoenix fleet began to move. Hundreds of ships, crewed by beings who'd never seen Earth but carried its memory in their hearts. They were heading toward a battle that would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every species that had ever dared to dream of freedom. Think they can do it? Kira asked. They are human, Marcus replied. Of course they can do it. The fleet jumped to hyperspace in a cascade of light that briefly outshone the system's dying star. Behind them, they left empty space and the promise of return. Ahead of them lay the Korthak homeworld, its defenses, and the chance to prove that some species were too stubborn to stay extinct in the darkness between stars. The Phoenix Protocol carried its cargo of hope and human determination toward a destiny that would be written in plasma and courage. The legend of Marcus Thorne was about to become reality once more.